That question first. We're a little behind. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do that.
Buenas noches. Si alguien necesita interpretación, si puede levantar su mano. Gracias.
Are we live? Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry for getting a couple of minutes late start. The executive session ran a little long. We're going to, on the agenda, we need to move an item F, board business, to allow the attorney some time to do her magic. So we're going to postpone that one, and we'll skip it until such time as that's ready. But I would like a motion on the agenda with that change.
To approve the agenda?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's go ahead and do comments from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have two comments from the public. The first comment is from the Swarm Robotics Club, and they are making you aware that they have won a couple of awards and had a great summary for their season. They also cordially invite the board to their end of the year celebration Wednesday, it says May 20th. I think that's the 22nd. Is that correct? The 22nd from 7 to 8 at the Hive Workshop on the old stage area at West Albany. Come meet our team and see for yourselves how amazing our program is. I got to see some of their presentation last week to the Albany Public Schools Foundation. Brought a robot out. It was pretty cool. The second commenter makes 3 points. A general concern about low test scores in the district. Requested information about the education improvement plan and requested that it be on the agenda for the June 10th board meeting. That's it.
All right, Chairman Gardner, could we go ahead and go to superintendent comments at this time?
Yeah, just a few things for you tonight. Thank you guys for your attendance at the Budget Committee meeting last Wednesday night. The next and second Budget Committee meeting will be next Wednesday. And in between, there will be attempts to, Jane is currently accepting questions that we will provide answers for at that time. We'll put some of those answers into a PowerPoint. And of course, there were a couple questions from Budget Committee members at that time. We continue to bargain with Certified. Really appreciate the way the teams are communicating with each other. I know that we have meetings scheduled. I think we have a day scheduled in June at this point. I know we have a couple of meetings prior to that. We'll continue to work on putting all the offers together and then beginning to work towards a solution. We are currently without a communications director. We have been accepting applications for that position. And we also are in the process of interviewing and selecting an assistant business manager, which we are getting closer to. So excited about the applicants for both of those positions. That's all I have.
Okay. Board reports. Who wants to go? John?
Don't have anything.
Brian?
Nothing tonight.
I'll pass with the right to reserve my time for later comments.
Okay. Pete?
Sure. I know that we have board reports for West and South. We have some state champs I'm sure we'll get to hear about, so that's pretty cool. I want to say I went to the Latino Club, had an event at West, which was pretty neat. A lot of people were there. I mean, I think the word hadn't got out that great, so maybe next time we'll have more. But it was really nice to see people in, all ages enjoying themselves there at West. Brad and I got the opportunity to go visit some more schools 2 Fridays ago. We got to go see Calapooia, North Albany Middle, and West Albany. I think I'm really happy with the fact that board members are getting out to visit schools. I know everyone's gotten an opportunity to do that. I think it's really important for us to be seen and also for us to be in a position where people can tell us what they think, and so I think that's important. I know Brad and I have talked about, and we're looking forward to hopefully trying to get some of the budget committees board meeting out there. I think that would be really neat. Another topic that just bringing up there that I think is something we need to discuss as a board is cell phones in our schools. A lot of we're having you read on in the newspaper, online, or wherever, we're having hard time getting kids to school, right? So how do we help them learn if they're not at school? And then, oh, by the way, throw on the fact that they're carrying around their cell phones, right? So we just need to use them smartly and recognize the fact that when they're in class and a teacher's up front trying to teach them something, they need to have their phones away. So we're probably going to be looking at something with that. That's it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed my walk around to the middle schools. And we walked into Calapooia. It was incredibly clean and nice and quiet. It was amazingly quiet and orderly. And we probably got 10 steps in, and I made everyone stop. And I go, wait a minute. I said, what's that? And there was this big sign on the wall that said, no, it was a cell phone with the do not have, it was no cell phones. I said, when did that happen? I said, oh, we started it like last year. We just kind of went and did it. I said, well, how did that go? And it says, amazingly well. The kids really responded to it. They've respected it. They had a little initial issue. And I said, would you like a policy to help codify that? And they said, oh, absolutely. So then I asked the same question to North Albany Middle School, and they said, oh, please, could we do that? And so there's a real yearning in the schools to try to get a little control back. So we are going to take a definite look at that and look at some cell phone controls. Doesn't mean the kids can't have them, like Pete said. Doesn't mean on their personal time they can't look at them. That's going to be up to the school administrators. Especially high school, when they get to be older and they're more responsible, they can manage these things. But as they're learning to come up, they need to concentrate on their studies and go and talk to their teachers. So that was a real positive. I really enjoyed that and that feedback. The other thing I understand is that, Hadley, I believe this is your last meeting. Oh. Oh, Hadley,
She looked
you're killing
happy.
me here. But I wanted to say thank you publicly and also privately. And we got you a little something.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate this. Thank you.
We've really enjoyed your insights on what's happening at West Albany and all the clubs and teams and the Spirit Weeks and really have enjoyed having you here. And we wish you great success in your college years and your future life. And you're going to do great things.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, now you get to go ahead and give us your report.
Okay, so the Environmental Club has a zoo trip planned from May 25th at the Portland, Oregon Zoo. Wind Ensemble defended their state championship title for the second year in a row on May 10th, placing first for 5A bands. The West Albany Jazz 1 Ensemble took third in the state on May 18th. Tennis districts was last week from the 15th to 17th, and I think state is this weekend. I believe that softball and baseball have districts this week, with boys playing Putnam and the girls playing Eagle Point. I don't have much information on district track and field and golf because there's not a lot of information online about that. Lacrosse made it into the league and had playoffs where they lost in the first round. High Steppers have tryouts for next year's teams on May 28th and 30th. They also held their annual kids clinic on the 18th for upcoming dancers. For basketball, boys basketball will be holding the last open gym of the year on Wednesday from 3 to 4:30, and summer basketball tryouts will be on Thursday and Friday next week from 3 to 4:45. With girls summer basketball they recently had a meeting last week for anyone interested in practices over the summer. With prom, Mariah Wynn and Lily Bennett were crowned prom queens. Students are on the latter half of AP testing with the home stretch right around the corner. Senior Skip Day is May 24th, and the seniors get to enjoy an extended weekend with Monday as a no-school day due to Memorial Day. Spring Picnic is on May 31st, and students will also receive their yearbooks. The baccalaureate is June 2nd. Seniors' last day is June 3rd with senior awards that night. The senior walk is on June 4th with the senior sleepover that night. And on June 5th, there's graduation practice with graduation on June 6th at 7 p.m. Following the graduation, there is the senior all-night party at the YMCA. And June 13th is the last day of school for the rest of the student body, thanks to the inclement weather days that had to be made up. And that's all I have for the actual board report of West. And I just have something that I want to highlight. I looked into it a little bit, and you can totally correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just something that I'm a little curious about. And that is the top 20 school districts in Oregon due to size, where GAPS is the 14th largest. And due to all of their, I looked at all their websites and went to their board meetings, and then what they do at board meetings, and one of them is public comment. And GAPS is the only one that does not hold in-person public comment. And I know, well, I'm not sure exactly why we don't hold in-person public comment. I was wondering if that's something, is there a specific reason why we don't hold in-person public comment at meetings?
Look, I just think the first one should be students talking about the proposed new cell phone rules.
Okay. And I know that we do have it where people can they go through the process of emailing in, and then they're posted for public record for people to go and read. It was just something that I was curious as to why we, out of the top 20 school districts, don't hold it in person, and if there was a specific reason why, or if that's something that can be put in place. I'm not sure.
Well, it goes back to when we first became board members. But one of the problems with in-person commentary is a one-way conversation.
Right.
There's no chance to ask questions. There's no chance to get clarification, which is why we created the listening sessions, where we spend an hour, hour and a half. Anybody who wants to come can come. We have open conversations. It's an 8-minute time frame. We oftentimes extend it. We're now to the point where typically only 1 or 2 people will show up to have conversations with us. But that's why, because it just didn't seem fair to be able, because a lot of times I had questions, and it's well, I want to know more,
Okay.
but I couldn't.
So to that, because I totally think that the listening sessions are a great way to have a conversation, because obviously at board meetings we're limited because there's everyone here, right? However, I think that the point of having public comment is to have the public be able to talk to you and just, give their opinion, whether it's, maybe they have criticism, but also lots of support. And I just find it interesting for all the controversy that a lot of other bigger school districts have. They still throughout it have in-person public comment, whether that's in person or they do have virtual options. And again, I don't know if anyone's maybe have they gotten in contact with those districts to see how they've done it, or if that's something that we can put in place. I know that the listening sessions are a great way for the community to connect and have a conversation with all of you. I just don't know if that's the most efficient way to be inclusive to everyone. They're not, they're not broadcasted. It's not, on public record, and not everyone can make those. I know that there was a lot of talk about changing the time so more people after work can make it. I just don't think that having the system of emailing in your public comment is the most inclusive or effective way.
So can I?
Please.
So first, this was a policy that was in place before any of us were here.
Okay.
And we've just followed that policy. Second is during COVID, the legislature passed a statute requiring that if you're going to allow public comment, you have to do that via streaming or via video or whatever else as well. And at that point, it isn't just the GAPS school district patrons that you're having a conversation with. It's nationally or worldwide. And so is that the best use of our time as a community? We were concerned, I think there was general concern, that with all the energy around education and curriculum and social issues and school board about doing that. And so lastly, once you have public comment in person for patrons to just speak and say their 3 minutes worth and be done, once they step up there and once you give them the microphone, you really can't take that away from them with grace. And they own the meeting for as long as they want to own it. So,
Is that, I mean, of course, I agree that there's always the risk that someone, you never know where they're going to go. But is that like, does that outweigh the point of having public comment and like having people represent their opinions to you?
I haven't in my, not that I'm counting, but my 2 years and 10 months and whatever, I haven't had a member of the public saying, I don't have access to you. I can't give you input. We can't have a conversation. And I agree with Chair Wilson that initially when we went to listening sessions, we thought that a better solution because people could talk.
Yeah.
And you could engage and
It's
you
a
could have,
conversation.
And at the time and the last time we checked, it wasn't the highest enrollment, 19 other school districts offering business from the public in person. And so taking a look at that and how they're doing that and how that's going is something that we certainly should pay attention to.
And that's just, it's off of like, I don't know, searching up, the largest school districts, going to their website, going public comment, and then they list out, clearly what they do. And GAP seem to be the only one that like, it's a email, and then it's not, it specifically says that the like comment itself is not read individually, but it is posted for people to read. It says that the board members read them beforehand. I was just curious to see, is it not in the interest of like to bring back public comment in person to have, and there's, certain school districts even set time limits shorter than 3 minutes. It's recommended that it's 3 minutes, but you can shorten it. You can say that it's like 20 minutes and there's 10 people, 2 minutes each. I'm just curious to see if maybe that's something that would be in the
You
interest.
can set those limits, but once a member of our community is at the dais and has the microphone, they're there for as long as they want to be. What are we going to do? Call the police? It just, that doesn't work out. And I think we saw a little bit of it last year during budget, where a patron was, when we had
Right.
public comment, was a little enthusiastic and exuberant in their conversation, and it just hijacks the meeting. And this, we are here to conduct the public's business, first and foremost. This is the board's meeting, and how we communicate with the public and is important. And if the listening sessions aren't accomplishing that, we should take another look at it. But for me, at least, that's the background and reasoning as to why we are where we are today.
And so is the reason why is that the reason why we don't have public comment in person, is because like there could be issues, or is there an actual like legislation that?
To me, I think the issue of a public conversation, which is a listening session, in my opinion, outweighs a public comment, which is a one-sided affair of whatever the person decides to say. I think the value of a conversation, being able to, like has been stated, find different issues, find more information, as opposed to someone just getting up and rambling about something that could be related to school, could not be related to school. We don't have any control over that once they've been given the mic.
Okay.
I think having the value of a conversation and the issues that can be worked out or thought up from a different perspective for both the person giving the comment and also the person sitting up in the board's position or Andy's position. I think that value is more than just someone just being able to talk that could go anywhere.
Okay.
I'd like to move on.
Sure.
So, if we can. Is that okay? All right. So Raphael was unable to attend, but he sent me his stuff, and I'm going to do my best to work through this. What we have planned for South Albany High School homecoming week. On Monday, we have melon cover Monday hats and powder puff at 6 o'clock. Tuesday is Twin Tuesday and Avid signing and honors at 6. Wednesday is Wacky Wednesday, followed by macho volleyball at 5. That could be entertaining. Thursday, 5:23, Rhyme Without Reason. Friday, 5:24, Biker versus Surfer. Sounds like a thriller movie. And assembly during flight with no evening activity. Raphael writes, we had our old school dance. The theme was Bikers versus Surfers, May 17th, 8 to 10 in the Commons. We're having a girls' soccer interest meeting Wednesday, May 29th. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Month in the Red Hawk Library. May 6th through 10th is a Hiroshima exhibit, 30-plus photographs of Hiroshima after the atom bomb. May 16th, virtual AAPI author visit. I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. Malia Ma'akuea, Hawaiian in Career Center, third period. May 17th, band books talk, Melanie Springer, mock, George Fox University, second period. May 21st, Rise Awards ceremony. Fourth, our stats are April 24th, 2024 blood drive, collection goal 49 units. Actual units collected 63. They were 128.6% above their goal. First-time donors were 29, actual sign-up 73, and actual presenting donors was 70. Power Red donors, 7. Our next scheduled drive will be July 1st at LDS Albany, Leaders Save Lives Drive. Band finished 6th in state at Mount Hood Community College. We had some inspiring performances at State Track and Field Championship this weekend. Our girls team tied for 5th place and our boys 10th. Scoring points for the Red Hawks. Farrah Dixon, back-to-back state champ in the 100, 200, and 400. Outstanding. Such an extraordinary feat, he writes. Farrah was also a 5A Female Athlete of the Year. I can understand why. That's an incredible accomplishment. Ava Marshall, 7th in the 100. Tatum Trudell, Claire Bitter, Ava Marshall, and Farrah Dixon, 6th in the 4x400. Carmen Thompson, 2nd in the high jump. Ashton Cragnis, Sawyer Hallberg, Dwayne Conrad, Isaiah Stewart were 5th in the 4x100. Isaiah Stewart 3rd in the 100 meter and state champ in the 200 meter. So well done, Red Hawks. Way to go. Bob, would you be ready to do the report on Sunrise? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm sorry, Andy, did you want to introduce Bob? I knew him, so I invited him on up, and I kind of took some of your thunder. I apologize.
No, I just want to say that this guy is sneaky good. He's actually obviously good. We really appreciate him. Last year, I was able to walk Sunrise and see this great music teacher who had all the kids playing, what were those? They weren't ukuleles.
They were.
Ukuleles.
Yep.
All the kids in the class got one out and started playing, but I really liked the enthusiasm this person had. And then that person applied to be our principal, where in the interview, we discovered that he has been an area director in a school district in Washington and has been a principal at multiple schools. I'm thinking, what are you doing as a music teacher? But
Fun with kids.
it has been such a pleasant surprise to find him in our district, and I just so appreciate his work in our district with our kids. Go ahead, Bob.
Chairman Wilson, Superintendent Gardner, members of the board, it is my honor to share with you the good news about Sunrise. At Sunrise, we have a motto this year. You'll see it there at the bottom of the screen. We say it's safe to learn. And there are many meanings to that phrase. First of all, it's safe to learn new things, try something new, make a mistake here and there, and that's okay. That's what learning's all about. We're also establishing that Sunrise is safe. It is a safe school in which to learn. So it has that double entendre, and we mean it. Here's some demographics of our school. Currently 334 students in preschool through 5th grade. 50% of those students are white, 41% Hispanic, 9% other ethnicities. We have 3 classes in each grade from kindergarten through 3rd grade, 2 classes in 4th and 5th grades, a functional skills class, which is a special education self-contained class, and one preschool class, which is federally funded through a grant that we've received called Preschool Promise. We have over 95% of our students coming from homes experiencing poverty. And of course, all of our students receive free lunch. 26% of our students are learning or have learned English as a second language. And 16% of our students qualify for special education. We have 59 staff members. That includes our itinerant staff who go to different schools. But 59 staff members at Sunrise, 30 of whom who are licensed, 29 are our classified staff members. 76% of our staff are white, 15% Hispanic, and 9% other ethnicities. Interesting thing, we've been through quite a bit of turnover. You've been around probably longer than I have, but at Sunrise, we've had a lot of turnover in the last 3 years. Almost 60% of our staff are within their first 3 years at Sunrise. We're proud of the fact that our 15% of Hispanic staff are fluent in Spanish, so that helps out a great deal when we're translating things, having parent meetings. That comes in quite handy, and I'm working on my own Spanish as well. We're also proud of the fact that 100% of our staff are committed to working in a high-needs school. We know the clientele we serve, we know the challenges they face, and we're there on purpose. Here's our school report card at a glance. It is not glowing. We've had 21% of our students pass the English Language Arts Smarter Balance Assessment last year. Only 19% of our students passed the math exam, which was actually up 4% from the previous year, if you can believe it. And then only 9% of our students passed the science exam. I shared these statistics with our staff at the very first training day in August and said, ladies and gentlemen, we can do better. And it's up to us to raise those scores. A little bit of context around those, though. Last year, when I was the music teacher, I experienced a little bit of this, but we had over 1,200 student behavior incidents, referrals, in the 22-23 school year. That's in a school of 350 students, mind you. That number, I shared that with staff in August and said, again, ladies and gentlemen, we can do better. Why do we have 1,200 office referrals with kids who are, 350 count in our student body? Well, we've dug into that this year. Also, I'd like to share this one snapshot of the Safe and Civil Schools survey that staff took last year. And item 58 on that survey asks, does student misbehavior in classrooms, such as disruptions, make it difficult for students to learn at this school? 95% of the staff respondents said yes, it does. It's a moderate or serious problem in our school. Well, how is it now? Let's move on to our points of pride and promise. I'll go back a screen. Just look at the red bar, okay? Look at those who were saying it was a serious problem at Sunrise a year ago, and now in 1 year, that red bar has dropped considerably, and only 57% of our staff respondents are saying it's a moderate or serious problem, with many more of the staff saying, well, it's a moderate problem, fewer saying it's a serious problem. We've done some work around that, and we're proud of it. To be specific, let's look at the RTI pyramid, the response to intervention pyramid. We know that universal interventions should work for 80 to 90% of our students. The things we do for all kids should work for the majority of our kids. Well, even with high student incident rates, I've circled the 80% there on the screen. 80% of our students at Sunrise have had no problems at all with their behavior. Maybe one office referral, but that's to be expected with every child, right? You get one little incident and you learn from it and you don't repeat that mistake. We've crunched the numbers for this year and we're at 80% of our students who are at tier 1 in their behavior at our school. Another point of pride is a year ago, only 46% of our students were considered regular attenders. Those are kids who have been there for over 90% of their school days. And that was well behind the state of Oregon at 62. This year already, and we're pretty much through the 6th season. We're getting a little bit of a spike right now with some pink eye and other things going around. But we're at 67% of our students are regular attenders. That's over a 20 percentage point gain in 1 year. And we surpassed where the state of Oregon was last year. I can't wait to see what the state numbers are this year. I bet we'll beat the state. Other points of pride and promise are, as I mentioned already, our staff are proud to be on the front lines, so to speak. We know the clientele we serve, we know the challenges they face, and we're proud to be at Sunrise helping our students and their families. We've also started a parent-teacher team this year. Our PE teacher, he's fabulous, by the way, Spencer Stanfield, has headed up our parent-teacher team, and they've had multiple meetings, they've planned family events. Some of you have been to some of those family events. Science night, literacy night, over 200 people in attendance at every one of our family events this year. One of the most exciting ones was our English Language Development Family Night, our first annual, we're calling it, ELD Family Night, where our ELD teachers hosted it so parents could come in and learn. We had translators there. They can learn how to help their child acquire English. We actually co-hosted it with Oak Elementary because one of our teachers travels between those two schools. So we had a free book for every child in their home language. We had books in Spanish, books in French, books in Arabic for our students. And they learned about how they can support their child in becoming bilingual. We're also proud of the fact that our ELD program produces a high ELPA passing rate. That's the test that kids take every year in their English language proficiency, and our kids pass at a higher rate than many schools around the state. Students graduate from that program proud of their bilingual status, and you should see the writing that is coming out of that classroom. They're producing some essays and whatnot, which are just remarkable. Our focal student groups in our school improvement plan are our English language learners, because passing the ELPA is one thing, but then getting to that bar on the Smarter Balanced Assessment is another thing entirely. That is a challenging test. I'd encourage you to go online and take some of the items that are released for that test. There are some challenging questions on that test, but they have not passed at the rate we would want for either the ELA or the math test, and our students with disabilities struggle greatly with that test as well. But I've mentioned there on the slide, it's really an all students issue. You know the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, unfortunately at Sunrise, the lowering tide that we've had has done some damage, and so we need to turn that around. I think this year we are doing so. We have had 1,115 discipline incidents so far this year. I told staff in August, we're going to respond better this year to the discipline incidents, and don't expect the number to go down overnight, but the severity should. And you've already seen the staff feedback of, oh yeah, it's not as big of a problem as it was last year. We do have 38 students who exhibit Tier 3 behavior needs. These are kids who have had over 6 discipline incidents. That's over 10% of our staff. So you remember that RTI pyramid where 80% of our kids are in the green zone. Well, over 10% are in the red zone as well. So we have to design some serious interventions to help those students learn what it means to be a Sunrise Cougar, how to be a safe student at school. Interesting fact, 34% of those high-needs students are in kindergarten this year. So that's a challenge for our kindergarten teachers. We've got a bunch of kids who have come into school having never done preschool and don't have perhaps some of the stability that we would hope they have. But as they come into kindergarten, then they're having to learn how to do school before they can learn the academics. We've had the challenge of high staff turnover, but we're turning that around this year as well. And then a lack of consistent systems. We had, I think it was 5 principals last year with the turnover, and having one principal who says, no, this is the way we're going to do things, just even things like arrival and dismissal. Staff are saying, okay, we know where the buck stops and we know how things should be going. We have 3 goals in our school improvement plan. The first is 70% of students will make typical or above typical growth in reading. And in January, that number was already at 57%. So we think by the end of the year, we're going to hit that 70% mark. What are we doing to get after that? Well, we found kids are losing time in their strategic interventions when they're having to get pulled out of class to go down the hall to such and such a room. So all the interventions this year are what we call push-in, where extra staff goes into every classroom at targeted times and pull kids into small groups, and everybody's in a small group. Everybody's got something they're working on. And we have the highest need kids with the highest trained staff during those interventions. We also felt it important to get every teacher in Sunrise trained in what you've probably heard of QTEL before. The acronym is up there. Every teacher has now been trained, and it really encourages discourse and talking about our learning. And then teachers said, we want to get into each other's classrooms and see what works. So we did 4 rounds of learning walks where we bring in substitutes and we relieve teachers in series to get into each other's classroom and take notes on each other's practice. Our goal in math is similar, to get 70% of our students making typical or above typical growth. As of January, we were at 55%, so we think we're going to hit that 70% goal by the end of the year. And it's similar with the QTEL and learning walks. Those strategies work for both reading and math. But a specific thing to math is we're focusing some of our PLC time on Wednesdays around math. All the PLCs last year were focused on reading, which is important. Literacy has to come first. But this year I gave teachers leave to say, hey, at least once a month, focus your PLC time on math, because we've got to get those scores up. We've got kids that don't know how to add, subtract, and multiply and divide, and we've got to teach it to them before they get to middle school. And then we are providing push-in support during math small groups in every classroom. Our behavior goal was to get that 95% of staff who said disruptions are a serious problem down to 75% in 1 year. That's the goal we set a year ago. Well, we know we already surpassed that goal. We're at 57%, so we're well on our way. We've met that goal. What have we done around it? We've put CHAMPS expectations in every classroom, taught and retaught. I'll send out blurbs every once in a while. Okay, folks, the hallways are getting loud. Let's reteach it. Come on, dismissal was a little chaotic from this wing the other day. Let's reteach it. Social emotional learning is the first 20 minutes of the day for every classroom. When kids come in dysregulated, they need that time to have a team meeting, a class meeting. Okay, what's it mean to be a student at Sunrise? Let's have a reminder. I do the morning announcements every day too. Just try to make it calm and encouraging. Here we go. Let's dive into learning. Consistent common area expectations. Those are things like the hallways, the playground, the cafeteria. We've actually had visitors coming to observe our cafeteria this year going, how do you guys make it be so orderly? Well, we've got some fantastic staff who have designed new systems, and they're doing a fantastic job. And then consistent coordinated responses from our behavior team. That's part of what's moved that bar on the graph you saw. We actually have a team, I'm on it, and the first 3 of us, myself, the dean, and our behavior intervention teacher, my charge to each of us is when a call comes in on our walkie-talkie, we need to respond within 3 seconds. If we don't, the second tier folks need to respond within the next 3 seconds, so that by 6 seconds, someone is heading down to room whatever to help with the student who is experiencing difficulties. Teachers have said, I know I'm always going to get help when I'm experiencing some needs with a student who's having some behaviors. We have something called the Sunrise Way. This is part of what I'll say on the announcements, and kids know to say the sentence that goes with every word. I'll say, students, let's not forget what the Sunrise Way is. I'll say the word, you say the sentence. Respect, and then they all say, school-wide, we are kind to everyone. Responsibility, we do our work and follow directions. And safety, we keep our school safe and orderly. What's everyone saying out in the public? Well, teachers are saying, I've rediscovered my joy of teaching. Things feel way better this year. Students are saying, hey, my dad came to pastries with parents. Our PTT was actually wondering, do we do muffins with moms and donuts with dads? Let's just call it pastries with parents. We'll bring in donuts. Any parent or guardian can come in. Let's pack out the gym. And they did. We ran out of seating. But kids loved having milk and a donut with their parent before school started. They're also saving their Cougar tracks, those little tickets they get for following the Sunrise Way, to have lunch with the principal. I've had one pretty much every day last week and another one today with kids who have saved their Cougar tracks to have lunch with me. And that's really exciting because I get to rub shoulders with the kids who are part of that 80%. They're doing great at school. Parents, these are direct quotes from the Safe and Civil Schools survey. The staff has been great at communication with parents. I appreciate every single staff member in this school for going above and beyond for my youngest. And then substitutes are a key clientele as well. They've said things like, Sunrise has really calm hallways, and thank you for the coffee card. When we're experiencing a sub shortage, I buy a battery of Dutch Bros cards or Starbucks cards and give them to our office professionals. And then when subs come on Fridays in particular, they often get a coffee card at Sunrise and they go, oh, this is a nice perk. I'm coming back to this school. So those are some of the things that folks are saying about Sunrise. What questions do you have?
How do we clone you?
Yeah.
Brian, do you have any?
No, great presentation. I like the,
Yes, sir.
the data and the follow-up and what you're doing about it. So good job.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks. Brad and I and Andy got to go visit your school, and I visited a couple years before. You have changed that place. Your staff have bought into your system. I think you're going to have no problem with turnover like you have in the past. They're very happy to be there.
I think so.
They're seeing positive movement. Parents and everybody are really excited. My biggest statement is just thank you. Hopefully you plan on working till you're 80.
I do. I'm there.
All right.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So your attendance seems like the regular attendees has gone up dramatically from last year to this year. Is there anything that you implemented, did differently, encouraged? Can you talk on that?
Our counselor, Christine Polito, is phenomenal at crunching the data, and then I set up periodic meetings with her back in August. We're going to meet this many times in the year, she and the office manager and I, and let's go through the list. Okay, we know this child had a severe illness. We're going to give a pass on this one. We're not sure what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to make a phone call, or are you going to make the phone call? Who's it going to be? Let's talk to that parent. Let's invite them in. I just had a parent meeting last week about a family who's experiencing some difficulties. So having those conversations with folks and letting them know we're here to help, and sending out the somewhat scary letters. We've done 3 rounds of them this year that get gradually more serious in my verbiage over the course of the year. Look, this is what it means for your child's ultimate prediction of graduating from high school if you don't turn this around. And we're here to help you, but please turn it around. And then I can't just wave the stick without talking about the carrot. We have attendance awards and popsicle parties and the class that had the best attendance and all those fun things too that happen often at schools.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wow. Great job.
Thank you.
Great presentation. And we have this, we've been getting these all year, and it's, I don't want to say that the criteria and what you present to us is consistent from one school to the next. And we've heard from one school, we've heard from one school, and the numbers don't always tell the numbers. The numbers don't always tell the story.
Yeah.
And clearly I get that from you. So I'm interested in your thought about how we measure what's going on at individual schools with this broad boilerplate kind of numbers and presentation that you're probably told to give us.
I think it's important to share the numbers because they do tell part of the story, but then to leave room for the context. What's behind those numbers? Because the folks who are working those front lines can tell you the story behind each of them. I know the child and mom that I sat down with last week and what they're going through to get their child to school. Okay, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and talk to you about that. Of course, I can't share it publicly here, but those are the kind of things that if we leave a little bit of space for that and allow that the numbers don't tell all the story, and yet I need to be held accountable for those numbers as well. If the numbers aren't improving, that says something too. So it's both, I believe.
Thank you again.
No problem.
Following up real quick on the numbers thing since it came up. Talking to a lot of teachers and administrators about test scores lately, and I keep hearing pretty constantly that kids are not motivated to take the test, and a lot of our top kids opt out of it anyway, and it's not an accurate reflection of what they're actually academically capable of. And I'm wondering, does that ring true to you? And if so, how would you propose a solution to that so that we can see what they're actually able to do?
I've gone through that more in previous districts. When the SBA first came out, there was a big outcry about it, and I don't know how it was here in Albany, but up in Olympia where I was, the outcry about the Common Core and all the things that, was being done top down was a big problem. So going in this year, I just said, we're going to go around. I said to my dean, Kirsten Aldrich, we're going to go around to every classroom, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and we're going to give them a pep talk. And I've got a pencil for them. It's nothing special, but it's a nice, shiny new pencil. And I'm going to talk to them about how schools have a reputation. How's it feel if someone talks about your reputation in a bad way? Well, you guys have an opportunity to set the reputation for Sunrise. And there may be people out in the community that say, Sunrise kids can't get it, or their teachers aren't pulling their weight, or it's not happening. How's that feel to you guys? Oh, I don't like that. I don't like it when people trash talk about me or my family or my teacher. All right, I don't either. So it's up to you to change that. Now, the test is coming up. Don't be freaked out by it. Get a good night's sleep, have a good breakfast, but do your best. And lo and behold, we had one opt-out this year. So I think to some degree it worked. We'll wait to see the scores.
Thank you.
Bob, thank you. I really enjoyed our school visit when Pete and I and Andy were there. And I remember one teacher who was teaching in front of the classroom. She had this little bee on her finger.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids were following along. And I could not believe how rapt attention they were to follow along. It was one of the things that really stuck with me. And, you know, your staff has been doing wonderfully. Is there anything that we can do? If you were to ask for one thing, what could we do to provide something, if it's within our power, to help you out?
The listening sessions are important, and coming out to our schools and seeing what it's like in each classroom, that's important as well. So thank you to those who have been able to make it to our school. I know we all have busy schedules, but coming to the school, to the family events, seeing what it's like for Miss Corder when she hands out the Super Bee to her students, that's exciting. And they love the pats on the back and the keep up the good work. When you have a rough day and you've had some disruptions in your class or some challenges, it helps to know that people are behind you and we support you. We know we're entering tough financial times, but that'll turn around at some point too. So just keep up the good fight.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Ready for the next one? So last spring, I had the really pleasant experience of interviewing with Sue Luthra and getting to know people that were in our district in various positions. Bob was one. His wife, Shannon Richards, was also an amazing surprise. Although I was concerned about where she lived. She was saying she worked in Centralia, Washington, but her address was Albany, Oregon. It seemed like a flag. But then I discovered they were married and that she had made the move. But another really pleasant surprise was a lady here that was a TOSA, stepped forward in the interview process, and I was amazed at her depth of experience and knowledge. And we now have her as a North Albany Middle School principal, and I think she's joined tonight by Assistant Principal Mariah Dietrich. But I want you to welcome Brizika.
Thank you so much for that intro, Superintendent Gardner. Good evening, Chairman Wilson, members of the board, and members of the GAPS team. It's really nice to see you all tonight. All right. As you can see, at North Albany Middle School, we work in collaboration to ensure that all students have the skills necessary for successful academic achievement and to develop the whole child so that they may be positive contributors to our community. We, as a team, have underlined and capitalized the all, because while North Albany Middle School is a beautifully diverse and incredible group of students, teachers, and families, part of what we're really working hard to focus on this year is to make sure that no student falls through the cracks and that every single child is served, has a strong academic and social emotional experience at our school. All right, so who are we? Apparently last year we had 506 students. This year we have more like 485, 490. We are 15% ever English learners and 12% students with disabilities. An interesting thing about North Albany Middle School is that we have one of the district's 2 bilingual programs at our middle school. And so students who leave South Shore bilingual, they have the choice between us and Calapooya, and about a little over half of those students choose North Albany Middle School. So we have a bilingual program which has quite a few of our English learners in it. And then we have 2 programs for students with special needs. We have our LRC, which is our Students in Resource, and then we also have an SSC, a structured support classroom for students with IEPs that are primarily based on behavioral needs. And so, and you can see here as well, 28% or more at this point of our students receive free and reduced lunch. And so we have a dynamic demographic in our community, and our teachers are working really hard to learn how to serve every single one of those kids. In terms of how we're doing on the state tests, you can see that English language arts has been historically a strength for us. We were at 59% last year, which was up 6% from the year before. And then math is one of our areas for growth. We were only at 32% proficient. And when I see scores like that, but it's the same children, and they're doing almost twice as better in one subject than the other, I wonder what's going on and how can we improve that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then in science, that's only looking at our 8th graders because they don't test in 6, 7, but we were at 37% proficient. All right, one of our points of pride and promise overall is our school culture. I do want to give a shout out to Mrs. Dietrich, who's sitting in the audience, our incredible assistant principal, who has worked really hard to iron out our behavior system at North Albany Middle School with Mariah's support and with our new dean, Cameron Thompson's support, and with teacher and student and family buy-in, we have these fantastic results. So like Mr. Richards was explaining, we have different tiers of behavior. And so one of the things that we're really proud of is that only 3.5% of our students have 6 or more behavior referrals this year. And of those 3.5%, only 1 does not have an IEP. So only 1 student has 6 or only 1 general ed student this year had 6 or more behavior referrals. Then you've got your yellow zone of students who have 3 to 5 referrals, which is only 7% of kids. And so why we're so proud of this is that 90% of our students had 2 or less referrals. And so what that tells us is that our preventative and our restorative processes are working for 90% of our students. And by restorative, I mean a student makes a mistake, they aren't just immediately punished and pushed down the disciplinary route. They have an opportunity to repair the harm that they caused. And so that might look like you make a mistake and you threw spitballs at the bathroom wall, you have an opportunity to work with the custodian to clean it up. You make a mistake and you used a word on the playground that hurt a friend, you have an opportunity to have a restorative circle with them to repair that relationship that you harmed. And what we're finding, especially when we bring parents into those circles, what we're finding is that those behaviors stop and we don't see repeat behaviors of those incidents. And so we're really proud of our students for leaning into that practice this year. Another point of pride in terms of our school culture, we launched BIPOC affinity groups this year with the incredible support of Kelsey's team and Ethan. And 68 students of color regularly attend those groups, which are monthly. They're excited about them. They went to OSU this year. They held a panel this year with me and Miss Dietrich where they told us ways that they thought we could improve the school to make it safer for students of color. So I'm really proud of the agency and advocacy that we're showing that those students are demonstrating. And then in general, and this is from the Safe and Civil Schools Survey, which students took last month, over 3 out of 4, so 75% or more students responded positively to these statements. And let me just let you know, middle schoolers don't say good things about very many things, right? They like nachos and that one teacher that's not mean to them. But in this case, 3 out of 4 kids said all of these really powerful things about what's happening in our building. If I saw someone being bullied, I would know what to do. That is huge. Staff members are supportive students. The biggest one for me is it's easy for students to make friends at this school. 9 out of 10, more than 9 out of 10 kids said that. And for the time that we're in with our students who came out of, these kids were 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders during COVID, and they missed those really critical years of making friends with each other and learning how to socially interact. And so for 9 out of 10 of our kids to say, I know how to make friends at this place, and in fact, it's easy for me to, shows not only are we working with some really kind kids, but we're also working with some adults who know how to facilitate those spaces so that kids can make friends with each other. These things don't just happen naturally. We have some really talented people in our building who know how to make that happen. Another point of pride and promise. So I mentioned that 15% of our kids are multilingual learners. And last year, in the spring of 2023, 0 students passed the ELPA. You know, Bob was just mentioning that Sunrise, one of their points of pride is that so many of their kids passed. And I was nervous, right, that 0 of our kids were demonstrating English proficient, of our English learners were demonstrating English proficiency by the end of the year. And this year, 5 of our 47 passed. And so 10% from 0%. And that's a huge testament to the incredible work that not only our 2 English language development teachers are doing, Ms. Maciel and Ms. Cox, but also our entire staff is wrapping around our English learners. And I'll share more about that in a second. Another point of pride is our student with IEPs. By January, they should have shown 50% of progress on their reading test, which is iReady. That's what you would expect. We're halfway through the year. We want to see that we've met half of our goal. But our students with IEPs had actually met 70% of the expected growth, which shows that our team is really learning how to support our students who are neurodiverse furthest from opportunity. And then as a whole school, by January, we had already surpassed in reading the growth that we had intended to make by the end of the year. So we had met 100%, 107% of that growth, which is huge. Okay, so who have we been focusing on at NAMS this year? We've been looking most closely at our Ever English learners, and then secondly at our students with disabilities. So I just circled them there for you. And so why are we looking at these groups, and what is the data showing? So our Ever ELs, meaning someone who was at one point in their life an English learner, but they may have passed the exam, maybe because they went to Sunrise, or they currently are an English learner, or they're in monitor status, which means they recently passed the exam, but we still have to keep an eye on them. So that's 14% of our kids at NAMS. 10% of those are currently English learners. And you can see there's a 32% proficiency gap between our general population and our Ever English learners, which is problematic. And then for math, there's a 25% gap. And then for our students with IEPs, which is 13% of our community, and as you can see the breakdown there, about 10% are in our resource program and 2.5% are in our SSC program. There's even a larger gap in ELA. There's a 42% gap in ELA and a 21% gap in math. And so we looked at this information pretty closely at the beginning of the year and asked ourselves, okay, what do we need to do as a school-wide body to learn more about how to support these kids? It is not just the job of the resource teacher and the SSC teacher and the ELD teacher. These are all of our kids, and how can we learn how to better serve them? So what are some of the barriers that we're seeing? Well, this year, we welcomed around January, we welcomed 13 newcomers to NAMS. And so these are students who came to us with minimal English, if any at all, significantly interrupted schooling from their former countries. And quite a few of them had some trauma that they were unpacking from their trip over here. And so another barrier and challenge is that I think, and I'm new to NAMS this year, but the history that I'm learning is that because our demographic has slowly shifted to welcome more English learners over time, our teachers have not been officially and formally trained in how to support English learners. And so they've been doing everything they can, but kind of playing whack-a-mole as opposed to really learning the skills to how to do this and the theory behind it. For example, of our 25 teachers, only one is ESOL, has their ESOL endorsement, and only 2 are QTEL trained. And they're trying to serve English learners with their hands behind their backs. So what have we done to support this year? We've partnered closely with the FACT team to provide wraparound services to support our newcomer families with housing and transportation. Our team really flexibly, quickly revised our schedule around January going into semester 2 to create a 2-period sheltered experience for those newcomers. So we don't just drop them down into the middle of a really challenging class. We're really giving them this like 2-period warm hug in the morning to get them started on their day. And then we also engaged in a year-long professional development cycle around supporting English learners with all teachers, but I highlighted in yellow there, more PD is still needed. We've really just scratched the surface. And so the barriers and challenges for our students with disabilities, what we're really seeing is that they're making great progress in reading, but there's a lack of intervention opportunities and resources in math. Our students, particularly our students with IEPs, are coming to us sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 years below grade level. And our schedule this year, moving into next year, we're going to try some new things on, doesn't have much wiggle room or flexibility to both teach kids the grade level content and pick them up to support them with what they're missing. So that's been a challenge. Some things we tried this year, we piloted a math intervention model this year with our 6th graders. And we started trying on something called co-teaching, where instead of the resource teacher pulling kids with IEPs out of the space, like Bob was saying, our resource teachers would actually push into the core spaces to support kids in that space, which sort of feeds 2 birds with 1 seed, in that the kids are getting their services and also the core teachers are getting some professional development from that case manager. We're gonna try, we're excited to continue to try more of that next year. Okay, so how are we doing? Our first goal, school-wide goal, was in reading, and we had wanted to increase our ELA scores by 5% school-wide. We are on track to do that to the T. So our last year we were at 54% proficient, and our iReady scores are demonstrating that we are on track to get 59% proficient this year, which would be a 5% increase. We are SBAC testing this week. They're taking it very seriously, and so I'm hopeful that we'll hit that or more. What have we done to get there? Our English language arts instruction, for the most part, was pretty strong. And we also have a really strong system of MTSS where kids who are reading below grade level get reading intervention. But the shift that we made this year was looking at focal group data analysis. We taught our teachers how to look at the reading and the writing data of our English learners and bring that work to PD every month. And teachers engaged in their own inquiry cycles around how to support the students in front of them and shifting their skills. And so that was our PD focus this year. Goal number 2, math. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, math is an area of focus and concern at North Albany Middle School. We had hoped that our students would increase from 36 to 41% proficient. Again, that same 5% growth mark. And are we on track to do that? According to our iReady scores, we are not. We were at 36% proficient last spring. And if we show the same amount of growth this spring as we've gone from fall to winter, winter to spring, we will only have made 1% improvement from 36 to 37%. And so we are on track to hold steady, but not to grow. And we've done, in terms of the priority actions, because our PD has been school-wide this year, we have had, the math team, ELA team, science team, all the teams come together to focus on how to better support our English learners. And so our math team has been learning how to better give our English learners access to the content. And so some of that has been through vocabulary work, word walls, collaborative structures, things like that. And then, like I said before, we did pilot. We shifted mid-year to pilot to give some of our 6th graders who are 3 or more years below math intervention opportunities, and that's been going really well. So continued needs, as you can see, this is the same group of kids. They're 36% proficient in math and 54% proficient in ELA. And so this continues to be an area of focus into the future. In a perfect world, we would have some resources to hand our teachers next year who are going to continue that math intervention pilot. Our third goal was around behavior. And this, we were hoping over the course of this year that our behavior referrals would decrease by 10%. And as you can see, they've actually decreased by 38%, which is a testament to the incredible work our team has been doing. By May 9th last year, there were 785 office referrals, and by May 9th of this year, there were 487. And so kids are in class more, and they're following the rules more often, and they're getting along with each other, and they're doing more learning. Are we on track? Yes, we blew this goal out of the water. What do people say about this beautiful place? There's a lot of stuff up there, but I'm gonna bring our attention to a couple. Jason, one of our incredible sixth graders who makes me laugh every day. NAMS is a good school. Just follow the rules and you'll have a great time. And the way he said it, he shrugged his shoulders like, duh, just follow the rules and you'll be fine. They're learning the process. And then this one really stood out to me too. Elena, a sixth grader, the older students really take care of the sixth graders and are nice to us, right? So there's none of that like 8th grade to 6th grade bullying that you worry about when you send your kid to middle school. Our kids take care of each other. And then some of our students, some of our parents, particularly of kids who have IEPs, have shared, I feel my child has an advocate at their school, and I feel that the staff remains child-focused and they work really hard with the available resources. This all rings true, and I wish I could have made 20 of these slides because there's a lot of really great things to say about what's happening in our building right now. Thank you, and do you have any questions for me?
Before we do, I promised we'd have a friendly audience because she was nervous that this is her first time when I got to walk around AM. So everyone be nice.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Full disclosure, I don't think we had 8th grade graduations. In fact, I went to 9th grade there, but I'm a student of NAMS, former student of NAMS in the early 70s. I think it's now been 50 years since I started that school. At that school, one of the questions I was going to ask you was about 6th grade onboarding. I go to this school now and it seems not so big, but at the time those hallways just seem huge. And so
sure.
I saw the quote. Is that just happening as a matter of organically as culture, or is it intentional? Tell us about that.
I think it's both. I think we have some really fantastic kids with kind hearts, and so that helps. But we do a few things to facilitate that. And so actually just last week, we had a welcome night for our 6th graders where they came in, met the team, their families were welcome, they picked their instrument if they want to be in band, and they did a scavenger hunt where they got to go to all the different corners of the building and start to feel like it was really their own. And then we do a summer bridge program over the summer that our 6th grade staff plays a pretty big role in driving. But then I think the biggest thing to answer your question is we have a program called Web Mentors, which is 8th graders who have opted in as one of their electives to take on a leadership role that is solely focused on welcoming and supporting the 6th graders. And so they end their summers early to come back and support the 6th graders with their transition. Where's the bathroom? How do you open your locker? I'll show you again. I'll show you again. I'll show you again, right? So they're just constantly there helping these really scared 6th graders. They support them play games during recess. They support them. They actually leave class 4 times a year to teach lessons to the 6th graders in their science and ELA classes. And so they really feel ownership over making sure the 6th graders have a good experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned getting parents engaged in student behavior. You have a template, or is there some best practices, or do we have district policy in place that you're following to do that?
That's a great question. We, as a middle school admin team, learned with the support of the University of Oregon Center for Dialogue, and I'm forgetting the name of it. Dialogue and Resolution. Yeah, thank you. We got some training in the beginning of the year on how to hold different types of restorative circles. So what do the preventative ones look like? What do the response ones look like? And I think it was just like a 3-hour training, and we all learned how to host one of those circles, and then we could then take them back to our team and teach them how to do it. And then with families, it's just an invitation. It's not a requirement that they participate in these circles, but I think 100% of our families have shown up to participate in them. And as part of these trainings that this one training that we participated in with the center, they do give you templates. And so how do you prepare for the circle? How do you, what's the agenda during the circle? How do you meet with folks in advance to get them ready for it? How do you follow up with it? And so, yes, we do have templates.
Good. It's refreshing to hear that when a student is having an issue and you call a parent, the parent shows up. I mean, that's not always what we don't always hear the good news stories, and so that's encouraging. We've been having a little conversation, an ongoing conversation all school year about the middle school policy of giving 50% credit for work that's never turned in. And it causes a problem, particularly their freshman, sophomore years in high school. You have any thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness. That is a loaded question. I actually, what I will say is that I believe all of our teachers work really hard to make sure students know exactly what they're being assessed on, exactly what's going into the grade book, what's going to be an effort grade, what's going to be an academic grade. And there is a feeling on my team that a couple things, that the middle school policy doesn't match the high school policy, and so they feel that there's a big hard transition to overcome between 8th and 9th, and so there's some energy around wanting that to change. Because those 8th grade teachers, they're always like, next year you're gonna, I'm helping you get ready for next year. And when there isn't that consistency, those can feel like empty promises, right? So that's a thing. And then I think in terms of the 50%, there is some concern. My instructional leadership team met about this and had a couple long conversations. There is some concern that students who have the capacity to do it and turn it in when it's due and get a really great score on it, they're waiting until the end of the quarter or the end of the semester to submit it. And there's some concern on my team that they're developing negative work habits as a result of the policy not supporting them to learn timeliness. But then on the flip side of things, there were some folks on my team who felt that shifting the policy to something considerably more harsh would hurt the kids who are furthest from opportunity, who already have so many missing assignments and who are already struggling to just get to school every day. So I think it's a really nuanced conversation that I do not have the answer to, but there's some really smart people on my team who would love to talk about it.
Thank you. I do want to acknowledge when I was at the school, it looked as sharp and shiny as the first day I arrived there as a 7th grader. And I don't know that we can say it enough, the appreciation to the maintenance staff, the janitorial staffs, and to previous school boards in the community for investing in those facilities that we've had over the year, that they're really in good shape, particularly in the case of North Albany.
Yeah,
So,
I'll second that. It's a gorgeous space, and our custodial team is phenomenal.
that's all I've got. Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job on the behavior referral data. Was it hard to pull that data for this presentation? To get, well, so earlier, like when Calpui was supposed to be back in December, Tristan said he had to hand count them because the system wouldn't feed it to him. So I'm wondering, has that been fixed? Or could you just pull it out of Synergy, or did you have to hand count? Okay, so that hasn't been fixed. Okay. Bummer, we need to get that fixed. Okay, good job, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks. Thanks for hosting us when we came, and things look great, and appreciate all the hard work.
Of course, you're welcome.
Bree, thank you, and then I'll ask them my typical question. Is there anything we could do to help you? Is there something the board could, policies or whatnot, that we could be of service?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Chairman. I have been really impressed and floored by the incredible budget maneuvering that this team has done. And I'm looking at Jane because I'm just so impressed and proud of what you guys have been able to do to keep us afloat. And so I share this with the understanding that I know that we're all trying to spend as little as we can right now. Our team, our students would benefit from math curriculum. So when the district is in a place to be able to purchase iReady, I do think it would have a really incredible impact. I know that both Calapooya and Memorial, out of site funds, were able to buy the personalized iReady materials, which for our school, there's the whole shebang, which is the tier 1 curriculum, which is for everyone. And then there's just the personalized part, which is what we could use in that math intervention space. In a perfect world, I would love the whole thing. If that's not possible, I would love for us to dip our toes into the intervention curriculum, which for NAMS next year would be about $12,000. And so if we can find it somewhere, that would be a huge help. If not, our team will continue making do with what we've got.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you all for your important work.
We had an executive session, or we're going to skip back to F because we had to skip by that while the attorney was working her magic. And so to give you a little background, the board met in executive session to discuss an appeal of a complaint by a parent that school administration did not follow the sexual harassment policy. The board would like to acknowledge, as the superintendent did, that the district's policy was violated. These violations included, but are not limited to, not providing outcome letters and notices of rights. The board strictly prohibits sexual harassment in all of its programs and activities and has a policy and procedure about that subject for a reason. The board strongly supports additional training to be provided to staff concerning their responsibilities and believes there are other preventative actions that the superintendent can take to ensure there is not a reoccurrence of the issues that led to the parent to appeal their complaint to the board. At this time, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based on the background and the findings you've listed, I would move that the board adopt the findings of the superintendent and that the superintendent create an appropriate and detailed plan to ensure our sexual harassment policy is implemented with fidelity and report back to us in the fall about the action plan and how it was implemented.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, now that we've done that, I wouldn't hold exclusively that we wait in the fall, that as a matter of practice, the information we receive on the policy and the implementation be free-flowing and that we be updated as that information becomes available.
Mr. Superintendent, does that work okay? All right, that'd be great. Wonderful.
We'll do the second part of F.
What's that?
The second part of F, F2.
Oh, pardon me, I did skip that one. Superintendent evaluation, finalize the process. Thank you very much for keeping me on that. Okay, we had looked a little bit at the superintendent's evaluation process and decided that the process we used last year would work again for this coming evaluation. And so at this point in time, I'm looking for a motion to do that and move forward.
Are you going to ask for discussion after the motion?
I absolutely will.
Okay, then I'll move to accept it.
I'll second.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. My fault, sorry. I did not mean to do that. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, I think for this year, this works, but I want to put in our here early that I think next year we really ought to consider adding to the part of the process feedback from staff and community members, not just the people we know and that we talk to, but a way to get people that we may not circle with otherwise, some feedback on how Andy's doing in regards to, I feel like the culture's really come a long way. I feel like it's a pretty positive place to be, and I'd like to be able to reflect that through neutral feedback in the evaluation as part of the thing, if that continues to be true year from now. So this is great for this year, but I'd like us to start thinking about how to get a broader feedback for next year.
I personally think that's reasonable, and we should work to do that, so we can work. Any other discussion? Okay, there's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, Sean, for keeping me on track. We are now at the consent agenda. Personnel licensed.
I'll move to approve personnel licenses presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Personnel classified.
I'll move to approve personnel classified as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board meeting minutes from April 8th, 2024.
I'll move to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes from April 22nd, 2024.
I will move to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Getting better about this discussion part. Making fun of myself. Okay, so we are on K1A Board Policy IGDJ.
So this policy was at the last meeting presented to you, second reading tonight. Essentially, it sets new parameters for the district to meet some tests before we just join any given organization. Typically, districts have only been members of the OSAA, but there are emerging districts as well. This sets parameters before we would enter into an agreement with any other interscholastic organization. I recommend to approve.
I'll move to approve policies IGDJ and LBEA as presented.
Oh, second.
Discussion?
Would this policy prohibit us from doing something that otherwise would make complete sense to us as we go forward? If we needed to act quickly. We wanted to join some other organization. What's the lead time to do that based on this policy we're about to pass?
I think there would be no leave times as long as you are responsive to the requirements before you enter that. You could make that choice.
Okay.
Are we joining like the Live Golf League or something like that? Something completely outside of
How
that?
much money is in it for the district?
So much I shouldn't say. All my golf clubs are in the water, so I'm not eligible.
Okay.
And so there were two of these policies that Pete brought forward to pass that have been seconded. Was there any discussion on policy LBEA?
So this one was again, mostly governing charter school enrollment. And it requires us to keep track of the total number of students in the district, the percentage of that total number that are currently in charter schools. We can stop them at a 3%. We would have to count those total students twice a year. We now only do that once. And so it just puts another requirement there. It also says that if a student is in an online charter school in another district and moves here as a resident, they don't need to reapply. They get to stay in the charter school that they have been enrolled in.
So
Go ahead.
I don't know where you are in the way of a process. Is that,
Well, we have a motion and a second, and we were in discussion, and when discussions ends, we're gonna,
so is that a hard stop at 3%? So the district internally cannot allow more than 3% of,
No, students can go until the district counts and determines that we are above, and then we can deny students subsequent to that determination. That must now be done twice a year. So if we were to say you can't go and we had not done the calculation, they get to go. Currently, we're slightly above 3%.
okay.
okay, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have no apparent reports or bond reports. We do have new business in one, reduction in force licensed.
So I will have Susie just briefly summarize this. The district, of course, had worked this winter and actually through the last year to try to make sure that we had trimmed things in order to get to year 2 of this biennium. We ultimately discovered that we had about a $2.7 million shortfall after having done a lot of the work just to find ways to be more efficient, which ended up with the list of positions in front of you. Susie, if you want to talk a little bit about positions versus an actual RIF.
So first of all, there were no RIFs except for we cut an administrative position. We cut 16 teachers on special assignment, but they all moved to positions within the district, and 5 elementary teachers' positions. And again, they all moved to positions within the district. And so the only position that wasn't moved within the district was the administrator position. The 16 teachers on special assignment are either, we had 2 counselors, 6 deans, 6 instructional coaches, and 2 interventionists. And it was done at each building and looked at the strengths of the building and the people in the building, and we moved people within our, the ranks in our different buildings. And those are teachers on special assignment. It's the same as the classroom, except for they do duties outside the classroom. We try to stay far away from the classroom teacher that was teaching students every day in the classroom. And the 5 elementary teachers were because of loss of enrollment at different schools, not because we cut teachers in the classroom. We just moved them to positions where they were vacated by teachers that retired or resigned because they were moving out of Albany.
So a couple things that we would like to make clear. We have talked to you about the potential liability of unemployment benefits during break periods for classified, which the employment division has determined that an individual may apply. That would be a classified person on summer break. The total liability there is very significant. We have not opted to cover the entire possible balance because that would have forced more cuts. And so we have not done that. We have set 400,000 for a total of?
Almost 600.
So we carried some money across and we have set an additional $400,000 aside. The total liability is somewhere between $1 million and $2.5 million.
That's correct.
Roughly. To have done that would defeat the purpose. We would lay off a bunch of people in order to have a liability, right? And so we will look at that. It is possible that if we finish the summer and we have exhausted that fund, that we could have a second round of reductions in the classified.
And I would also tell you that we have not done classified yet, just certified, and classified will be at the next board meeting. You will see what's happened in classified. And again, we're hoping to just be able to move people into positions that have been vacated.
So could you clarify, I guess for me and for the public, what a RIF is and what that means?
So by policy, we come to you with the positions that are reduced. As we reduce a position, that person, so some of those positions are vacated, someone may retire. Some of them may have a full-time employee returning next year, but that position has been eliminated. Those people have moved to other positions, and Susie has done a great job to separate that out. Riffing, where someone has noticed that they will not be back and that they have a potential for a recall, has been avoided in large part.
I believe you're asking what RIF stands for. It's a reduction in force.
There was that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stands for what?
Reduction in force. It is a clause in the contract.
Okay, so I'm not sure which I heard. I heard there won't be any, and I heard we don't think there will be any.
There
Do
will
we
be
know which it
positions
is?
reduced. You want to talk about that?
So we reduce those positions, but all of those people that were in the positions have been placed in similar or like positions within the district that were vacated by either retirement or resignation.
So we believe today, based on what we know, that if people will move into other positions, we will not have to lay anybody off in this category. Is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you. So is it too early to talk about the impact or minimizing or not having an impact on the classroom based on this plan? Is that a budget?
That was our intent. We have only reduced some teacher jobs where the school population has declined.
So is your intent to talk about that, or it?
No, they did it. The decision they
Yeah,
made.
we did.
13
That's what's
positions were
presented to
non-teaching
you.
positions. 5 were teaching positions.
Okay, so this proposal, as you're laying it out, would indicate no negative impact on learning and in the classroom.
Yes.
Won't affect class size.
I mean, I think no is a strong word. Less than or limited, maybe.
Okay. So then, and I just know I'm going into the weeds here, but I can't help it. You talked about filing for unemployment and the cost to doing that. And if we don't have to lay people off, how do we have a increased liability for unemployment claims?
State changed the law.
State changed the law and made it possible for a classified employee to file for unemployment during the break months of summer,
And also Christmas and spring break.
spring break.
So
So that's a new one. Oh, sorry.
And our liability, the potential liability is more than $1 million of that?
If everyone filed.
Potentially, if everyone did file. Some people find other work, some people won't file, some people may.
So did they do that by administrative rule or by statute? Did an agency do it? Did the legislature do it?
It was a legislative bill.
Right, so look, that's just an unfunded mandate.
That's exactly what it is.
And so is anybody calling them on that?
Yes.
Okay, I will too, if you give me the address to, because there's a provision in the Constitution that prohibits that. And so, yeah, I'll just stop at that.
So Roger, I calculated if every classified took advantage of all of the breaks, summer, Christmas, and spring break, it would be 2.8 million.
And so you probably need 3% of that to occur to reach that threshold for it being an unfunded mandate that really needs to be some additional dialogue. And I wonder if that issue came up in hearing as they were considering this.
It's a topic for our meeting tomorrow. We have a funding meeting among superintendents. It's on the agenda.
Go ahead, Pete.
I just want to say thank you to Jane and Susie and everyone working really hard. We're having some cuts, but it's not anything like some of the school districts next to us. You know, Salem, Portland, we're not, as Susie and Jane have said, we're able to keep everybody on board due to, you know, resignations and retirements, and they might not be in the same job, but they're still here in the district. And that's really important. The other thing that I hear over and over again from the principals mostly and the staff is that we went out and asked them where they wanted to take their cuts. You know, and I think that's just very collaborative, and it earns a lot of trust amongst the leadership from everyone on the staff, because, you know, we just didn't give them the poison. We asked them how they wanted to take it, right? We said, how can you best do this? You know, and I think not only will that allow us to be most successful, I think it allows us to gain trust and for everyone to understand that we're all in this for the same reasons and pull the rope in the same direction. So thank you for that. I think we're doing really good. I wish we didn't have this, but we do, and I think we did it the best way we could. I move to approve reduction in forces as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just, I want to, I guess, further elaborate on all the comments so far, that my experience is there's a substantial difference in the morale and culture and attitude of an organization when you're just cutting positions versus when you're cutting people and you're eliminating members of your team who want to continue. So just well done to everybody, and good financial discipline and foresight by a lot of people to mitigate the damage.
And I'll second what Roger said. We, you know, kept our eye on the ball, didn't spend money unnecessarily, and left ourselves in a great position. So thank you both for doing that. And I understand that there's some unknowns that we're trying to navigate around that may change our position. And you've done the best you can with what you know. And when we have more facts, we'll deal with them accordingly. But I like your approach. I like where you're trying your very best to keep people on board. And it's truly appreciated and noticed. So thank you both, really, and your teams. Really well done. Okay, we have a first and a second.
I don't, we didn't vote.
I know, we're about to.
Okay, all right.
And so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I thought we were going elsewhere.
Nope, that's all right. I like to keep you on your toes. Now we're moving to the nutrition service contract. It's getting late.
To bring up Scott Lewis, our director, food service director, in case you have any questions for us. This is the second annual authorization for the renewal of the contract. So we went out for RFP about 2 years ago, so this is a second annual update to that. This goes to the state for approval. It comes with the CPI increase of 4.2%? 4.2, so our costs went up just a little bit, not as much as last year, so that's what we're bringing to you tonight.
And
by the way, I want to mention Scott has done a great job for us, and I just was adding up, and you guys talked a little bit about visitations and getting out to buildings. 634 this year is visitations Scott's been in each school. So he's just done a great job of being there, being present, seeing things, improving things. getting feedback from staff. So that's just an outstanding attribute that he has. Yeah.
Well, and one of these days, it's my hope on a school visit that Chris will schedule us for lunch there. And we could actually have lunch at a school. One day, maybe. So then we can see what you're doing. Is it is it typical to do this twice a year? Is that normal? To come back and ask for a second contract? Is it?
I think we did we do it twice this year? I think we did it last spring.
It's an annual.
Oh, just
just
an annual,
annual.
okay, yeah, just the way you had talked about it, I thought it was like twice a year, and I thought
Oh,
that was
I'm
odd.
sorry.
So that's
No,
okay,
it's
no, I was
just
just
an
making
annual.
sure I understood.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah.
Sorry. And I'm certain there must be a motion here.
First reading.
Oh, it's a first reading, sorry. Okay, that's right, we're first reading. So we have no questions?
Is there anything in particular you'd like to share?
I've been here for a year now and absolutely love it. Great fun getting out, seeing everyone, seeing all the schools, and really appreciate the board's support. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think that's it unless anybody has a question. Painless, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first read on Meadow Ridge lease agreement.
Yes, I'd like to bring up John Anderson and Sean Rubesh. Did I say that right, Sean? All right, great. And so we have an outstanding partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. We didn't bring this lease agreement to you with the one we did with Waverly, but it mirrors the exact same.
Wait, so these guys were just here. We did just do something with them.
That's right.
Yep. Okay, all right.
They come twice a year. So the previous lease agreement was at Waverly. This one mirrors this, has been through our attorneys and all the T's crossed and I's dotted, and I wanted to bring those folks here to tell you a little bit about what their plans are for there.
So, if you remember, we talked about Waverly. That was a much smaller building, about 4,000 feet. What we're proposing to do over at Meadow Ridge is closer to 25 to 30,000 square feet. So,
It's a big building.
Yeah.
so there's, in the northwest corner off Meadow Ridge, there's about 2 acres of ground there. Currently, it's just grass that you guys mow and take care of. So what we're proposing is we'll mow it for you. Permanently. So we'll have office space for staff and for meeting rooms. We'll have 5 to 6 classrooms. We'll have a teen center there. 2 full gyms, because we have a gym shortage within the district still. And we're looking to serve anywhere from 200 to 300 kids on a daily basis. So I think your guys' projection had somewhere between 15 and 1,600 kids in those 2 schools within the next few years. So we're trying to support more kids in a local area as opposed to busing them back and forth across town, which we know we have a transportation issue. So whether it's with the district side or the parents bringing them home at the end of the night, we're trying to solve that issue for them and serve more kids.
We currently have about 2 bus loads that come to the club from those 2 schools, if not 3. But those kids aren't getting to the club until 5 o'clock or closer to 5, and then they're getting picked up about 5:30. So they're not really getting anything from the club. So this allows us to be where the kids are and meet them where they're at. And then this takes that challenge of how do I get home from club? So now that kids can just walk over. Same model as we have at Waverly. Waverly, as you know, before we had about 25 kids attending club from Waverly. We currently have, with this new satellite site, we currently have 89 enrolled in Boys and Girls Club. So we know that if we take the challenge of taking transportation as an issue and allowing kids to walk to and from these clubs, then we allow them to take full advantage of what the club has to offer. And so this is a totally new approach for what you've seen in years past, which is let's centralize the club, because the school district has done us a great favor and take the kids to the Boys and Girls Club. But the challenge is that some of these kids aren't coming to club because they can't get rides home. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to eliminate. And with the projected numbers that you have at Meadow and Timber, 250 to 300 is not going to be an issue trying to fill up that club. We're trying to model it after a Salem club that was just built. And so that was about 25,000 square feet of space. This is potentially, well, when Sean's done with it, it could be above 30,000. So we're
That's
trying
a
to.
little concerning.
Yeah.
So thank you. I mean,
sure.
you're the ones delivering the services to the kids, and that's fantastic. And as you standing before us, my only fear is it sounds too good to be true.
This is just step one. So
Okay.
we have a lot more check boxes to go through. So this allows us for us to get the land and this lease agreement. It allows us to open up more conversations with potential funders. We had one that said, hey, we'll give you some funds to start you off in an endowment, but when you have plans together, we'll approach us again and we'll get you more. So this is just step one of going, hey, we have this land, we have this partnership. This is now we got to put the plans together to see what this vision looks like.
What's the district's role in the design of the building going forward then? Is there one?
Nope.
No control over the way it looks? I'm not sure. I'm a big fan.
Not unless you bring your checkbook.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's going to sit there right by our school, you have to have some say
Pete, go
over how
ahead.
it looks.
We don't really have a homeowner's requirement set. Our buildings look as different as Central from Meadow.
Yeah, but Central and Meadow aren't right next to each other.
Okay.
So there's the issue of funding to get it built.
Yep.
And we could speculate on what that was going to cost, but I don't want to. It's a lot.
We have an example. Salem Club built about a 25,000 square foot facility. They spent $15 million on getting that facility built. So that was a handful of years ago. So I'm sure it's a little bit more than that. So we are bringing a lot of our resources into this project. We're hoping a little bit of partnership from you to help us get this going.
So Ryan, maybe, sorry, Pete.
Yeah, one more. Pete had a question. Go ahead.
I mean, it's easy for us to give you the property or lease the property, but I mean, to me, you guys are the ones eating a lot of the hard lifting here because, I mean, with the facilities you have already, you're having to draw quite a bit of money. If you get this is quite a bit more. So, I mean, great. You're up for the task, gonna do some car washes. Fantastic.
It's a lot of car washes.
It is, but I'm sure you guys do a really good job.
I think, Ryan, to your concern, it's likely going to be a concrete tilt-up, similar construction to our other buildings, and similar to what Meadow is nearby.
Yeah, I can't visualize the space. I would just hate to see some giant eyesore sticking out there looking, crowding up against a school, brand new school and looking bad. But maybe I'm the only one that cares about that, so, or,
Aesthetics. But we could ask that they come back and share us a concept.
yeah. I mean, you don't want it to look bad either. I know you don't, so I'm not that worried. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Well, you could do it for less with a prefab metal kit and beam. I mean, if you were growing some flowers inside it, it might qualify as ag exempt. So once you have it built, you think there are the funding streams then to however you cash flow Boys and Girls Club operations, you can cash flow. I mean, it's a weird term to use, but you know what I mean.
One of the steps is going to have to be for us to establish a capital campaign. Part of that capital campaign will include an endowment funding so that it allows us to pull interest from that endowment to support annual operation costs. So the building may cost $15 million, for example, but we may ask for another 10 to help put into an endowment to help support annual operation costs. So, because like Pete says, we've already done car washes and we can't do any more, and so we have to figure out a way to support the increase in operating funds or expenses.
And as we increase the number of kids we serve, it opens the doors to other foundations and grants that we can apply to.
So is the proposed lease, is it a time certain? Is there benchmarks? Are we allowing you all to hold that
It's a
for?
99-year lease.
So if we go 99 years on a lease and we're 3 years into it and it doesn't look like the money's available, they still get 96 more?
No, there's a termination clause in the
Yeah.
lease
Yeah.
that allows.
There's some
both-
milestone provisions in the lease that if by X time you've not got A, B, or C done, then,
No, there's not a milestone one. There's a provision to terminate it, I think 90 days if.
This is a first reading, correct?
so I guess for me, I think as people change out, that we include some kind of milestone provisions to protect both sides, and so somebody 7 years from now knows what we all were thinking and agreeing on when we made this deal, if they've not made any progress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to start getting this designed based on we're having surveys done now on the property to see what our challenges are going to be.
Wetlands?
That's not a good word to use, but yeah. And then what it's going to take to mitigate those. And then we would move to design, early next year and then start our capital campaign right behind it.
Okay.
So it's not something we're trying to lock down today to start in 10 years. We're wanting to move forward right away.
Okay, that helps, thank
Quickly
you.
as possible.
I think section 15 covers what you're talking about.
Okay.
Any questions? I want to say, Sean, John, I'm continually impressed by what the Albany Boys and Girls Club does. And your auctions are legendary. Your Christmas tree funds and what you've been, and the community in general, how they support the Boys and Girls Club. Albany is a model for the rest of the country on what we've been able to accomplish and how much we've done. And it's large part to what you guys do. Sean, you being on the board, John, Director, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being such a great advocate for our kids. And we're going to take a strong look at this and help you get this done. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
All right, we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My computer went to sleep here. Okay, now we're in for school support fee, City of Albany.
So you guys saw a very similar MOU presented to you a month ago from the county. We were looking to do an exact same, they're using the same law. And this is a tax exemption for 5 years with an ability, we must, as a school district, stipulate between 15% and 30%. We went with the low end with the county, 15%. This exactly mirrors that, 15%.
Is this the same project?
I don't believe it is. It may be, but it's the same MOU. I know that they needed one separate because I thought that they were together. And then they stipulated that it was separate.
Is this the agreement to the tax credit pertaining to building apartments?
No, it was related to a project that
think it's-
also spanned Millersburg. I think it was ATI.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Is this an
It's
action
a
item?
first,
That
no,
is
it's a first read.
That was MUPD, multi-use. That was what that was about.
Okay, and this
The other
isn't
one.
MUPD?
No, this is not
Okay,
MUPD.
good, because I don't like MUPD.
We gathered that in the meeting.
Any other questions? Can we move to N5, board policy updates?
Jane, you want to take this? This is a modification to the ending fund balance language.
Sure.
I'm happy to talk about it.
I just wanted to clarify, so the ending fund balance normally pertains just to the general fund. And so we are just updating the policy. And it currently says 8%, and that is what our budget is based on. And that is like 10.5 million.
So we're just cleaning up language and codifying it in policy.
There is another piece to it. the district has in the past used carryover of building level funds.
Oh, yes.
And they were tracked separately. And buildings could save and not spend their building budgets. And this wouldn't be the people side of the budget, these would be the equipment side of the budget. They could save and carry over as much as 20%. This was not funded, and so it was just kind of a hidden drawdown on the general fund. And we have, particularly as we go through these tough times, we have said that if we had 20 buildings each saving 15,000, then all of a sudden we would have, $300,000 that would be unusable to us. And in these times, we have to make it all work together. And so, and that is not a typical district policy, right? Normally, districts, you use your funds, you could sometimes be cut short in a tough time, but we have not seen many districts that have this in policy. They might be able to do that. It does create a requirement on us, which is the projects that they were saving for. A lot of times an elementary school might want to save for like an office remodel or something like that. We have to build a schedule of those things and make sure they're done, right? So a facility update plan also is going to be really important. Dave's been working on that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you and Lauren have been working through with building principals?
Yeah, so in some of these areas of funds, principals would use it for technology. They'd use it for furniture, general upkeep of their buildings. We basically have taken those funds and put it into accounts that are held over facilities to help with that. But then we partner with the principals to put those plans in place. So 3-year plan for technology, you've seen that. We've also been in communication with principals and got their input on the projects that they have and want to make. Lauren's done the same thing with the needs in this building, so a 3-year plan. So those projects that they were saving the money for are still getting done. They're just being done in a coordinated way.
So like if a school wants new carpet, it used to be they'd save up, get a deal, buy carpet. Now, if they want carpet, they tell you they want carpet and you make a plan to get them new carpet.
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty big switch, I think, but okay, good.
So this was put into practice for the 23-24 budget. We just did not change the policy when we changed the practice.
Any other questions?
8% is not a lot. It's a month. It's in theory, it's a month's savings.
That's exactly right.
And that's less than what experts recommend. However, we're in some challenging financial times, and I can't see upticking that to a higher number.
Not
in
at this
these
time, but
times. Right.
but in the future, I believe that should be adjusted upward. But
So tonight, I received a text that we know that Silverton was down a month, or 8% roughly. And of course is gonna have to cut a bunch to get out of that. Tonight, we are hearing that Newburgh is cutting 11 million next year and is $3.6 million short as we sit tonight.
We'd call that negative cash flow.
That's what it said, negative balance.
Yeah.
So we just want to have cushion to avoid that.
Well, you don't have much, and so we shouldn't.
Yeah,
Are they also
We
borrowing
shouldn't
against
project
future
that
funds like
everybody should-
Silverton?
they're doing the same thing.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know that I need to
But we
say
have
more.
a secret weapon. She's sitting over there.
Well,
Jane.
Well, I think we just need to really make sure that people understand why there's a balance.
No, I agree. Okay, moving on to N5B, Special Education Individualized Education Program.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. I'll just say that these special ed first readings are coming to you. There is one that is requested by Krista McGuire, but these are the result of procedural safeguards that have now come into law. So,
Yeah,
Brian,
so I know that they're law, and I know that AR is a law. I don't know if it's required to be word for word, and that I'm just really concerned about 3D, which is basically, I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but it basically says anybody assigned to work with a kid gets invited to and compensated for the IP meeting, which is a giant problem in a lot of ways. And I don't know if you can narrow that language up a little bit or figure out a way to tweak that so it be more clear, because, everybody in the school is assigned to work with every kid, first of all. But even in special programs, if you got 3 to 2, your CTP has 2 teachers and 8 assistants, so you're gonna invite 10 school employees to every IEP plus, I mean, it's unwieldy and not reasonable. And so it feels like if you could tighten that up somehow, and still be within the state law, I would try to do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for mentioning that today. Haven't got to identify the exact law that requires that, and we'll look at that and see how we can perhaps limit that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ryan, can I ask you to spend some extra time reading on those? Because you're our resident expert. And I would ask you to report back to us and kind of what you find and what you see, because it'd be very helpful, because you're going to understand this stuff way better than any of us.
Well, I read through most of it, and most of it's boilerplate federal law, but that is not. That's something that Oregon stuck in there, try to make it look like a federal special ed law, unfunded mandate, if you will. So,
Okay, yeah, thank
I
you.
will,
And
absolutely.
please spend some time on that.
right,
And another one rides the bus.
right.
Do we need to talk about,
So, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, do we need to talk about N5E? Because we kind of did the two together.
Yeah, this is a recommended policy, it comes from Krista. Typically, most of our people in our schools are managing both 504s and IEPs. This just extends those to 504s.
And I kind of skipped by the procedural safeguards. Was there something there that?
It just gives parents, I think it's a 10-day that they can come in and look at their parents' education records and IEPs.
Okay, and then the last one is use of restraint or seclusion.
This has been a big one this year. The procedures that are, that surround the use of restraint or seclusion. One of the things in here is that the use of a seclusion cell is prohibited. Those would be places where the student is just locked in a room. Those are prohibited. There are some other changes as well. It does require us, for example, to train, and you'll recall Krista came and presented on MANT. There are things that we do. There are notifications to parents whose child is restrained that they can, I want to read this. I think it's in the AR. But essentially, parents could view if there were videotapes or whatever, and we need to let them know if such is available. And so this is a significant active area in the law that is continuing to evolve. Pete?
I know we've had a few, maybe unofficial complaints, but complaints about kids get out, they're running out in the street. You know, teachers grabbed them to basically for safety reasons, doesn't want to get in the street. There's some confusion there, at least in the public, of when that can be allowed and when that can't. Obviously, we need to be able to keep kids from danger. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be restraining them all the time, but there's times when you have to. I mean, anyone who's been a parent knows there's time you got to grab your kid to keep them from getting hit by a car.
Yeah, I think, the reporting of these is to, not TSPC, but Children's Services, and the mandatory report that has now come to these has created a huge burden on the state to investigate all of them. We have had multiple, pretty heavy checkups and follow-throughs on those, and it's something that we're going to have to work to try to mitigate, because sometimes it can be a very reasonable action, and yet it must be reported.
I was just wanting to make sure it didn't keep us from doing smart things at times, that's all.
Yeah, there's concern that people in those positions feel very exposed in the work.
Okay, that was our last topic. Roger, would you have anything to motion?
I would, but Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned.